Hi everyone, it's 11:59, so in a minute we'll start the webinar Selling Through Your Network. Thanks for coming, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Well, let's get started. Welcome everyone. If you're here to take the Growth Wheel webinar called Selling Through Your Network, I hope you've taken the prerequisite, Assess Your Business with Growth Wheel Tools, which we do once a month, because it will help you get oriented to the general scheme of things that I am not going to explain a lot today. We're just going to specifically work with tools related to this topic. This is me, so for those of you who are new, I welcome you, and I look forward to your questions at the end of the session. What you're going to be learning about today is assessing your existing networks. Before we started out as entrepreneurs, and ever since, our personal networks were critical to building and maintaining our client base, and that's still true today. So how do we maintain and grow our network as a continued source for new customers? Well, we're going to learn more about that today. So the other thing you're going to learn work on besides assessing your existing networks is to figure out how to leverage your network for profitable opportunities. So during this session, as you join the webinar, the Growth Wheel tools, network mapping and network activities, those two tools will be sent to you. During the session, you'll be shown the tools that you'll use to analyze your networks. And after the session, you'll be sent the article, Selling Through Our Networks. And the webinar will be started on our website for your future review. As we said in the registration information, for people who don't join us right now, the tools are not available after the workshop, only during the workshop. So good that you're all here. So let's take a poll, shall we? We've got a few poll questions we want to ask you. So if you would take the time now to tell us where you're from. Keep voting. Some of you out there have not voted yet. Okay, so let's close that poll. So some of you are from another state, and most of you are from the Chicagoland area. Great, welcome. I'll be interested in finding out whether state you're from, but I think I can get that from your registration information. So let's go on to the second poll. So now we want to know about how you heard about us. Did you find us on our website? Did you have an information night at the WBDC? Did you get it through our e-blast or newsletter? So let's open this so that we can have you vote. So could we open this poll, please? Eleni, could we open this poll, please? Okay, well, it seems that we're having a technical, oh, there we go. Okay, so we've gone on to the third poll question, and so let's find out how long you've been in business. Some of you voted, some of you haven't, so let's keep voting. Okay, so it looks like some of you have just started planning, but the majority of you have been established 3 or more years. That's great. Okay, so also after the session, you'll have an opportunity to dialogue with me if you want. There is a question box that is down below that I'm happy to answer questions that you have. So I'll kind of keep an eye on that as we go. Okay, as we talk about the growth wheel, this is when we talk about the growth wheel. This is what I'm referring to for those who may not be familiar with it. And the presumption is that all people, all businesses, have to deal with these kinds of issues, no matter what their industry, what their size, or how old they are in their business. They at some point will have to deal with all these aspects of the business. So today we're in and just to show you again, the 4 areas are the business concept, customer relationships, organization, and operations. So, excuse me. So today we're in the corner of customer relationships, and we're looking at the concept of networking and how we build trust and lasting customer relations. So as we think about networking, this framework, which is going to be in the article that is being sent to you, provides an overview of the people you need to know through the company or your personal networks. For example, they might be future clients, they might be international contacts, they might be board members, they might be professional experts, they might be suppliers, or even future employees, as well as media professionals. So I'm going to take time right now to do a plug for the WBDC. We have, in fact, 5 positions open right now, and soon to have another. So we are very actively looking for someone to be the director of our Veterans Business Outreach Center, which is a regional position. We have been awarded a large grant to fund that position, and another position that is that person needs to be a vet, but the other position related to it does not need to be. It's a program coordinator, but it needs to be someone who's familiar with Veterans Affairs and veterans issues. We also have an associate for established businesses open. I think we've just about got somebody for the director for Latina or Spanish-speaking programs and child care programs. We'll soon have a part-time temporary contract position that is part administrative and part counseling. So we have a lot of things offered, and if you're interested or you know somebody who you think might be a decent candidate, please direct them to our website under the About Us section on the staff page, and all of the positions are posted there. So I just wanted to get that plug in because maybe you have a future with the WBDC or somebody you know. So as we look at the networks, that was an example. That was a real, right now, good example of using your networks. So it's important also to remember that although you don't always have the network you need, you can always establish or activate one through your existing networks. So you may find that you don't have a board member, so that's not relevant to you, but you have role models. You have people that you know that might be future employees. So there's usually someone who has a connection to the network you need, which is why I shared what I needed. Think about how you can use this framework to assess the strength and quality of your company's network. So you might think about, does my company lack access to certain type of networks? What are they? And who in your network can help establish a contact to new networks? And we're going to use some tools in this webinar to help you think differently about these. So back to first things first. The important thing too is to remember, what's your goal? We so easily, particularly with networking, to get into what we call the activity trap. And so you want to think about, so people go like, oh, I'm really, going to a lot of networking meetings, but nothing's happening. Well, you need to think about, what purpose does a particular network serve for you? It's about forging new relationships. And selling through our networks is usually easier as a path to sales than cold calling. So when someone in our network has mentioned us in positive terms, it helps. So do you want to, when you're thinking about networking in a particular network, what do you want from that network? Do you hope to gain referral partners? Are you thinking more directly about acquiring new clients? Are you thinking about serving existing clients more effectively, because they are, it's far easier to and more cost effective to keep clients and serve them more than acquiring new clients. So it's time and resource expensive to get new clients if we can better serve existing clients and keep that as a steady stream. When we think about networking, sometimes we think about what we're going to get from the network, but it's really, networking is really about givers gain. It's about focusing on others. It's really not all about you and what you need. So how do we get there? Well, most importantly, when we talk about focusing on others, really hone your listening skills. This is one of the most important skills that you can have as a leader and a business owner. By listening, you gain information to help you get feedback, and as you listen to what you hear, you can frame your solution in a way that's more relevant to the speaker, either for them directly or for someone they know. And the reality is, most of us don't want to, quote, sell, unquote. We don't want to be pushy. We don't feel like we can talk well, maybe. We worry that people won't care about what we have to offer, or we'll be bored with them, or they'll be bored with us. And the remedy is focus more on what their needs are. Listening is so key. Also, you need to be known for something good. In other words, how do you show up in the world? What kind of reputation are you developing as someone who helps others get their needs met? And as people ask you about your business, of course, you have to be clear about your message. Tight articulation of the problem your clients have and what you do for them is an important set of pieces of conversations that you should be building out. So if you haven't figured out the problems that you solve for clients, now would be a good time to do that. And then you'll have that in your bag of resources when you go to networking events. To be able to talk about the problems and your solution that fits them. And then in terms of givers gain, I don't know if you know, but there are two major networking groups that I know of for B2B businesses or business-to-business networking groups, besides local chambers or neighborhood groups. And BNI is Business Networking International, and LATIP. They both function the same way. They're both referral-based agencies where each group has only one kind of business in it. so there can't be two insurance people, there can't be two bankers, there can't be two coaches. There can only be one of each of those. And the idea is giver's gain, to be thinking about who you can refer to other members in your network first, and that's actually the first order of business in most of these meetings. So be prepared to help others first before getting, and develop a reputation of listening and helping, and maybe volunteering and giving back through that particular network. That's a way of getting to be known for something good. So now we're going to talk about the tools, and each tool in the Growth Wheel group has a title and a benefit, an intention, a process, next steps, some space for focusing on your ideas and working through them, and a place to date and own it. So let's get to describing the tool. The first tool I'm going to show you is network mapping. So when we look at this tool, let's look first. Remember, the title's up here, and the main intent of the tool is here. The intent of using this one is to help you map out your current and personal and professional networks. By getting an overview, I'm looking at the intention now, so I'm reviewing the intention with you. By getting an overview of your existing network, you can start the process of creating paths to expanding your network and finding other needed resources. So this is one way to begin to brainstorm what are the networks that you have and that others have that you could tap into. So you're going to start with this tool by putting the names that come to mind on the map in the various categories of networking. Continue to think about adding new groups when you can think of them. And finally, systematically go through all the groups you come up with and see how many names that you can come up with that are related to that group that you can either know or that you can ask somebody to introduce you to. When the worksheets has no more space, of course, put it on the wall, map it out. So this tool is a very simple tool, but the value of it can be huge. Let's go to the second tool. Once you've done the mapping out of your networks, then the next thing is to start planning participation in those networking opportunities. So as we look at the intention, this is about leverage and return on investment of your time and money, and getting an overview of your possibilities and prioritizing them. So when we look at the tool here, the type of network, these are some examples of the type of networks you may join. Trade organizations that either are appropriate for your clients or for you. Annual conferences, and this is a good time to talk about our annual conference, which is coming up September 1st and 2nd. This is the largest entrepreneurial women's business conference in the United States, the oldest and largest, where people have a chance to network with other people who want to do business with women-owned businesses. So if you haven't gone before, I encourage you to sign up right away and before it fills up. And we have speakers. I always say wear flat shoes because you're going to be on your feet all day. There are, in our conference, there are not only keynote speakers and workshops where you can learn skills. There's also, for those who are already Women Business Enterprise Certified, there is an invitation to participate in contract connections on a roundtable basis with major corporate contractors and possibly some government contractors. And in addition to that, there is a lot of networking opportunity informally, and there is a buyer's mart, and last year we had 110 sold out booths of people who wanted to do business with women's businesses. So there were corporations, banks, government entities, other partner social service agencies or work development, business development agencies, all participated in having booths. And I strongly suggest that if you attend the conference that you make a very clear plan of what you want to get out of it and map your activities, because it'll be overwhelming otherwise, but extremely useful. So that's an example of an annual conference that is really important. There may be conferences with your networking groups. There may be conferences with your business that are in the trade that you're in. Of course, professional networking groups. When I told you about us having 5 positions open, one of the things I was doing this morning was putting the word out to my professional networking groups to let them know about the positions we're able to have. Social networking groups could be things like your sorority or fraternity that you have that can be servicing you. There may be professional networks of your own that you have, that you've started yourself, or that they're I think this is your own professional networking groups, probably within your industry or profession. And the distinguishing mark in my mind for here is like the professional networks for business to business, like the chambers, BNI, LATIP. It doesn't matter how I define it. It matters that you define it for you so that you can run your thinking through. When we talk about online forums and blogs, think about LinkedIn, think about Facebook, think about other web-based places that you've gone to that you get great information from. That's a great place to be showing up and contributing. Remember the idea of being of use, being known for something good. You can contribute and start being seen as an expert in these areas. Online networking services could include things like the LinkedIn groups. There's lots and lots of those, and so you probably want to do some research around that to see what they are. So once you figure out what are your known possibilities for groups in each one of these areas, then you have to ask yourself, and maybe yes or no is not sufficient. Maybe more important is a scale of 1 to 5 or something of how relevant is it. Then you should look at it in terms of money cost and time cost, because both of those are important for you to look at. So one of the things I realized with BNI is it was a reasonable price, and when I participated, I got enough client work to cover that cost, but the cost in time was truly prohibitive for me because it met every week, and so I felt after a while it wasn't a good fit for me. Whereas my professional networking groups, those were different for me. I felt that those were really useful. So you need to go through and think about, like, how much do I have to pay to go to a meeting or to travel to the meeting? In addition to how many hours do I spend in the meeting, preparation for the meeting, and follow-up from the meeting. And then, of course, the next step is, like, what are the next steps here? What are I really trying to, when they say next initiative, it's just a fancy word for, like, what's the next big thing that you want to do with that? Or it could be as simple as what are the next steps? And of course, if you don't follow up from your networking activities, it's kind of a wasted time anyway. So you want to figure out, how much can I follow up? What kind of follow-up do I want? Again, it gets back to the purpose of the networking meeting in relationship to what you want to have happen with developing relationships that can lead to sales. And I think that's really important that you think about the developing relationships, because if you go to a network and you think you're going to get a sale, you're not going to get a sale. That's not how it works. Rather, what works is, let's see if that's something, let's explore this further kind of conversations. So that's what you can expect to happen. So as we look at the process that I just described, we, we, we talked about assessing which network possibilities and looking at the costs, and then looking at the next steps, and then thinking about, is this something I really want to be doing? And then, of course, setting up dates and doing the follow-up work to make sure you get there. So, this is an ongoing activity for you to be looking at what are the best networking places for me to be. And so that will help you. Hopefully this worksheet will really help you prioritize your networking activities towards developing sales relationships. So how do you discover the working relationships that you need? Not in your own office. You have to get out and about. So these are some ways that we talked about on the last slide. But the important thing is you can't do it just electronically from your office. You need to get out and get present. You need to be present with people physically to develop the business. And if you can't, the next best thing is, of course, Skype and email. People need to put names with voices and people. So you need to do that piece too, so that you can't spend all your time here. That's the key thing I'm trying to point out here, because I've seen people talk about sending lots of emails, or the other thing I hear people say is, well, I contacted them once and they didn't ever respond. I said, how long has it been? 2 days. Okay, so follow up with an email. The recommended time, there's no rule, but I think a rule that I followed was I would contact somebody 3 times, and then I would say the ball's in your court, like if I were sending an email or a phone call follow-up. But then I would set a time for myself. If I thought this was pretty important, when did I want to touch base again? Because when you're talking about building relationships, we're talking about over time. And so, maybe I think the longest time I took to develop a relationship was a year before I got the contract. And so hang in there. Make these things happen. So let's talk about the next steps then for networking. First, decide on that objective that you want. Second, make a list of the networking opportunities that could meet that purpose, and evaluate which ones are most relevant, and of those, then prioritize them. Then think about how you can better meet the needs of people in your existing network. Again, the whole idea of brainstorming a list of problems and your solutions to those problems, so you can have those in your tool bag for your conversation, is most useful. It's not about reciting your elevator pitch, although you do need to have an elevator pitch, and you do need to have one that's very succinct. So you should, if you haven't already written out your mission statement or your vision statement, to talk about what you do and why it's important and what problems it solves, you need to do that. And that will help you stay on target. And also practice 3 or 4 different elevator pitches based on those different problems that your business solves. And then once you've identified that and created these, like, maybe 30-second descriptions, and literally time yourself, because it matters, because you lose people after a short time. But more importantly, get it down to 7 or 8 words at the max. For example, our tagline is, our growth is your growth is our business. The Women's Business Development Center is here to help you grow your business. So it's not about me. It's not what I do. It's not the activities I do. It's not about coaching and training. It's about growing your business. So what is it for you? Then also think about at events how you to remember to ask for reference to others that you need to meet now. So it's all about giver's gain, remember, and so there may be, even though you're talking to someone, they may be a link to somebody else. And one thing I did when I was independent was I had a book called Customer Evangelism by Jackie Sloan, and I'm sorry, I forgot the other person's name. It's the first name, and it's a guy, but the book is called Customer Evangelist. And you might be able to find it on eBay or wherever. But what I remember about the book that I thought was interesting was how important it was to keep track of the path of the and the origin of an order. So some orders may come to you via 4 people sequentially. So it's important to be able to keep track of the chain and see what you can learn from that. And then also make an Excel spreadsheet to track the return on your investment. Remember we talked about on the worksheet tracking your investment? Well, you really want to evaluate whether this is valuable to you. So what should be on your, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. This was what should be on your ROI spreadsheet. So when we talk about ROI, of course, we're talking about return on investment. So what I would do on a spreadsheet, and this is nothing fancy, this is just a simple Excel spreadsheet. What's the network name and or type, used for what target group, what does it cost per meeting, for example, or for driving or taking the train. You can break that out however you want to. The number of clients or orders it takes to make it worth the investment. When did you start? And when do you see the break-even date? For example, the BNI and LATIP business to business, and also the chambers, they all have membership requirements, and those are in the hundreds of dollars. So again, you want to see, when do you break even? Was it worth the time as well as the money? And that, let me reiterate that is a very important thing for you to be thinking about. The time or the money, both time or money. So these are the things I would say to put on a Excel spreadsheet to help you track whether your networking time and money has paid off. So the last thought about networking before we talk about other next steps is the rule of 3. And I am looking for my rule of 3 because I had some lovely things to say to you, so hold on just a second about that. Well, let me just say this about that, since I can't find my notes on that right off the top of my head. You need to have at least 3 good solid problems that you solve regularly for people that you can talk about. You want to you want to have ready 3 good references that you think the kind of people that you're interested in talking to would like to know. For example, if you did project construction, construction management, and you knew an architect, you knew architects that you worked with, or you knew accountants that worked with construction companies, or you knew an attorney that worked specifically with construction companies, and you met up with another construction company or related business, then you could give them that information. And then you want to be able to walk away with something, right? So you want to think about having at least 3 good names that you have gathered from a networking event. Not tons, not 12, because you want to be able to follow up with these, and you want to be able to form genuine relationships. And so if you have too many, you're more likely not to follow up. But if you look at if you know been introduced to someone or someone has said, well, this is really something that I could use, but you should talk to Joe Smith. Well, then you want to get Joe Smith's conversation, or you want to get the card from that person so you can get an introduction to Joe Smith or whatever. But you want to walk away with at least 3 good names from a networking, which is why, again, it goes back to the purpose. You want to set the purpose well so that you're likely to be in a rich environment where this can happen. So what now? Well, you want to work through these tools on your own and read the article. If you're outside of Chicago, I know some of you are, then you want to find your closest SBDC and go to sba.gov and type in your state. And I think at this time it might be a good idea to take a couple more poll questions since you're all here before I go on to a couple more next steps for you. So let's have the next poll. Okay. So we want to know, have you worked with any SBDC in the past? So if you take a moment to answer that. Some of you have voted, some of you have not. Let's have you vote. Getting there, almost there. Okay, let's close this poll and see that a lot of you have worked with a SBDC. Well, it's time for you to do that because your SBDC, which is your Small Business Development Center, is one of those places that you can get business advisement for free. Talented, skilled, strong information and technical assistance. And so if you're wanting to build your business, why not? Come to see us or come to see another SBDC near you. So now, if you're working on your business with a little, if you want to work on your business with a little help, schedule an appointment with an SBDC advisor, like I just said. And I am a certified growth wheel advisor, and they're in the state of Illinois and 32 other states have, if their SBDCs, entered into contracts with the Growth Wheel organization so that these coaching tools are available widely across the United States through small business development centers. So if you're thinking you want to work with a Growth Wheel advisor, you should ask your local SBDC about that. And if you want to see the variety of tools you might work with, go to growthwheel.com. Can we have our next poll, please? Okay. So now, as we're thinking through this webinar and how you're going to make use of it, let's see how you intend to make use of what you learned today. Just take a moment to fill in this poll. Good. Okay. So great. I'm glad to see all of you have made a choice about what you're going to do to help build the thing. So you can see that some of you are going to work through it on your own. Some of you are going to do everything, which is great. Some of you are going to do some combination of the ones before. Okay. So how do you set up an appointment for these free sessions at all SBDCs? Well, the sessions can be, you can meet in person or by phone. You can expect the time to be about 50 minutes. You'll be expected to complete what they call a Small Business Development Center intake form, which is information that is rolled up for the Small Business Association and is never sold to anyone. And if you're at WBDC, then you just call this number, extension 100. If you're an established business, which over half of you were, asked to meet with Cynthia Johnson. She's our Director of Established Businesses. If you're at the pre-startup stage or up to 3 years emerging as a business, let the scheduler know you worked, you attended this workshop and or webinar, and she'll schedule you with either me or another counselor named Deborah Miner Harvey. So now will be a good time to ask questions. Any question, that you have related to the webinar is fair game. So you can type in the question, and I'll be happy to. Oh, and we have one more poll question we want to ask you. So if you just respond to that too before you head on to the pass. So can we have our last poll question, please? We ask this because we have different granting sources, and so could you please let us know if you're either a veteran, interested in opening a child care business or already in a child care business, or perhaps an established business out in Aurora, Illinois. Okay, close. Everybody's answered, and thank you for that. So, questions. Please pretend that you left the call, and then you go like, dang, I wish I'd asked Meg. And remember, the only dumb questions are the ones that aren't asked. So I'm going to sit here for a moment or two to look for I'm pining for questions. So let me know if you have any. Do you see the question box in your place where you can get them? So Erica, Aaron, or Sandra, any questions? Well, seeing none, I would say thanks a lot. And remember, too, that we have webinars posted by date on our website. I try to do a couple growth wheel tools a month around the circle of the different content areas. So they may not all appeal to you, but some of them might, so keep posted for that. Remember, our conference is coming up. We also, for those of you who need financial help in terms of your business, looking at, what do you need to know about your financial acumen. Remember, we also have access to capital through community microloan function, and so those require a solid developed business plan. So if that's not something you have yet, we can help you with that. So we also have in-person business clinics, business plan review clinics in which you have to have a draft of your business plan, but then you get feedback on it and problem solving around it. So those are some of the other things that we offer that might be useful to you should you need it. Okay, seeing no questions, thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you on another call. Goodbye.